Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by XFC Featherweight Waylon Lowe. Waylon, how are you?
Great.
Waylon, you got a fight coming up April 26th at XFC International 4. How's training been going for the fight?
It's going good. It's real good. Tough training, a lot of hard training, a lot of hard sparring. It's going great.
Now, you've been on a little bit of an adventure to get this fight because you had three opponents. I think Marcos Rodriguez dos Santos is your third opponent that you've had. So walk us through this whole ordeal. Let's go back to the beginning. When exactly did you get the offer from XFC for this fight?
It was kind of a short, not a totally short, I think about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. There was, I was going to fight a guy, I think their champion, and I accepted, and then something happened on his end, and then they got me a replacement in the Alvaro, and I believe he got hurt with a sprained ankle, and Marcos Rodriguez stepped in. All this happened within like a 2 week, I think 2 week period, yeah, 3 weeks.
Now, does that make an impact in your training, or are you one of those guys where it really doesn't matter who you fight, you just kind of, when you're going through a training camp, you kind of just focus on yourself?
Yeah, a little bit, I just focus, I focus on what I want to do mostly. I take a look at the film or whatever and see where they're, if they're real dangerous and what to stay away from, and then where I feel like they're vulnerable. But, you can't always, you don't want to study too much and look into that because people are making adjustments, you don't know what happened, so, all that.
Now, how much do you know about your opponent?
I know he's won 13 fights straight. I know he trains with a tough team. I know he's a black belt, so that's about it. I don't know a whole lot.
With him being your third opponent, was there a point in time where you were just like, get me anybody? Like, I'm trying to prepare.
That's exactly what I was like this time, actually. That's exactly what I was like this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, how different is his style from the other two? Like, is he a drastically different fighter than the first two guys you were preparing for, or is he kind of similar to their style? From what you know.
I think that he is not too different than the last guy. Both those guys are similar. I mean, he's smaller than Alvaro, but the first guy was supposed to fight was a counter puncher, so he backed up a lot and this and that. This guy comes forward like Alvaro, but he's smaller, so, I mean, there's differences, yeah, but it's not drastic.
Now, with you having the attitude of, with going through the first two opponents and then being presented this guy and saying, it got to a point where I'll just take anybody, how disappointed are you that you're fighting this guy? Obviously, you're not overlooking him, and it's going to be a great fight. But the other two guys have a little bit of a bigger name. Alvaro, he's the legend. That's his nickname, and he's got so many fights. I think he's got like 57 or 60 fights, something like that. And then the other guy was the champion. So, is it a little bit of a letdown to be fighting this guy this time around?
What do you mean let down? Like he's not as much as the other two opponents?
What I mean by that is you have a little
recognized.
He has a little bit more to gain than you do this time around. Like you're expected to win this fight. Let's be honest. A lot of people are expecting you to win.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't know. I don't even think about that really. I don't. He's won 13 fights. He's a black belt. He trains with a tough team. We got 4-ounce gloves on, head kicks, elbows. So I don't know. Some guys that are really good, whatever, even in sparring, that are the best. I mean, the top, whatever in the world, are easier to spar and deal with than some guys that are even unknown. I think it's the styles and what gives me problems and specific things. Sometimes it just comes down to matchups.
Right. Now, with him taking the fight on pretty short notice, you took this fight on short notice yourself, but he's coming in even later in the game. Is this fight still going to be at featherweight, or have you guys agreed to a catchweight? What's the situation on weight here?
I believe it's going to be at featherweight, yeah.
Okay. So you still have to cut the weight. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, you haven't fought outside North America. This is going to be the first time you're fighting outside of North America. You fought in Canada once, but other than that, you fought mostly in the United States. Now you're going down to Brazil for a fight. Are you looking forward to making the trip down there?
Oh, yeah. Besides the plane ride, I'm petrified of flying and also over the ocean and all that. But if I can get over that, it'll be all right. I'm just, but yeah, it's amazing. The city's amazing. I've been studying Sao Paulo, and it's an amazing city. It's like New York, collided with Beverly Hills, man. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And then the culture, and oh man, I can't even describe it. I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, are you looking forward to going into enemy territory? Are you one of those kind of guys who likes, being in someone else's backyard?
I don't think it matters, really. I really don't. I remember this Vanderlei Silva comment, and he's talking about, when they boo me, I like it, or if they cheer for me, just hearing the crowd, get up for the fight is stimulating to them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to be main eventing this card. How many cards have you been the main event for throughout your career?
I believe this will be my first one.
Really? All the fights you've had, this is the first time? Really?
I believe, yes.
Is that something that's important to you? Does that mean something to you? Or is it something where you don't really care where you fight on the card?
I don't care, I don't think it's, I don't know, it's just, I don't care. I told the guy the other day, what's your favorite fights? And I said I enjoyed all of them, even the ones I lost. I don't do it really for recognition or popularity or for people to see me. I get the same feeling, if it's a little fight, or a big fight, or it's the same.
Mm-hmm. So you're strictly in this sport for competition?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what I do it for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How many fights do you have with XFC? How long is your contract for?
I have, I think five or six.
5 or 6 months. Okay.
A year and a half.
Okay. I see. Now, your last 2 fights took place under the World Series of Fighting banner. I'm just curious, what happened with them? Was it just a 2-fight deal and you fought those fights and now you're a free agent?
No, they had given me a new contract to sign, and and it was, it was a good contract, good money. But the problem is when I was with them, I signed with them, and after I signed with them, it took 7 months for me to have my first fight. Then after that, it took 7 months for the next one, and now I've been sitting on the shelf for 9. So I was like, I'm not going to re-sign if I'm going to get the fight once a year. That's what the thing is. I asked XFC, I asked them to guarantee me 3 fights a year, and they didn't respond. And then the XFC was like, yeah, we can definitely do that. And so I signed with them because I just want to stay busy and fight. Just sitting around I just wasn't enjoying the sport because I was under contract and couldn't fight, and it was miserable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because you had a very active 2011. You fought 4 times, and then since then you've kind of slowed down. 2012, only 1 fight, and then World Series of Fighting, you only were able to fight for them twice in 2013. So, is that above all the most important thing to you? Is not the opponents, not the money, just keep me active?
It really is. That's the thing is, you're not going to get, I guess, unless you're the top guy or whatever. There's no retirement in this game. You're not going to, make any huge money anyway, mm-hmm. And you only have a certain window. That's never even crossed my mind. Because if it was for money, there's way more things that would be, better just financially. But yeah, that was the thing, is I wanted to fight.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, are you one of those guys who it's a little bit harder for them to train when you're not set for a date, like when you don't have an opponent, when you don't know when your next fight's going to be?
Big time, huge. That was the problem with my last fight, I believe, is I got so, big and my weight blew up and it was harder to get motivated and I had to keep myself busy. Ever since I was little, I've been just ridiculously hyper with energy and needed to be doing stuff constantly, and it was boring,
Mm-hmm.
So that was a problem, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Is this all you do? Is this your full-time job, or do you have a second job besides fighting?
I coach wrestling and stuff, so.
Mm-hmm. You're training out of American Top Team, correct?
No, that was a while ago. They got that off the Sherdog. It never changed. I'm training in Philadelphia now.
Oh, what team are you with?
I'm with Balance Studios, the McLarish brothers. It's just right down the block from my house. It's where I've always kind of trained. I just went to American Top Team that one time. I don't know why. Sherdog never changed it or whatever, but I'm at Balance. I box at Johan's Boxing in Philly.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I always wondered about that because, you see pictures of guys training American Top Team. I never saw you. I was always curious about that. So
I'm friends with those guys. I loved it down there. I love the coaches and all that. But I love Philly too. I'm like, and stuff. So I like it here.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, what brought you there? Because I believe you're originally from Tennessee.
My fiance got pregnant, and we were in. I moved back home to Tennessee, just working, and an opportunity to coach and work up here, and so I came up here, and I saw it as an opportunity. Instead of just being home, not doing anything, working, there's more opportunity up here in the city than way over in the mountains.
Oh, I see. And now, I'm not sure that you mentioned it or not. Where exactly do you coach wrestling? Are you a high school wrestling coach? Are you a college wrestling coach?
I'm a youth wrestling coach at Bucks County Storm. It's north of Philadelphia. It's the number one place in the country. That little, 3 counties, Area 11 with youth wrestling is the best in the country. So all the ones that go to Blair Academy and all these places, and they end up going and being NCAA champs and all that. This is a hotbed for wrestling, so it worked out perfect.
Right. Now, at your gym, who are your coaches, and also who are some of your training partners?
Bill Aljo's been my main partner for this. My coaches are Phil and Rick McLarish, jiu-jitsu and stuff, so that's about it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, you've been fighting at featherweight recently. You made the drop down to 145. I'm just curious, how difficult is it for you to make that weight? And also, why did you decide to make the move down there? Because, I was surprised that you were able to cut to featherweight because you're such a thick guy. You're well built. I wasn't sure that you could make the weight, but you've made it a couple times here. Why did you decide to go down there?
I think just for the height, I was really short, for 55. Those guys were getting, like 6 foot, and I think the length has something to do with it, especially since I started when I moved to Philly, I really started getting into boxing and everything and striking. I didn't realize how important. If somebody knows how to use their length, it's important, obviously, but, that's an aspect of the game. Wrestling, you can be much shorter than the other guy, and, it don't affect you, and where the striking, it does. Mm-hmm. So I think that was, my main reason for. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty hard to make the weight. I don't know. Like you said, I'm big boned.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, when you were wrestling in college, what weight did you wrestle at?
Well, I wrestled 149 the whole time except my senior year. I bumped up to 165. I didn't cut any weight. I weigh 170 usually, but I bumped up because the best guy in Division II who had beaten all the Division I and beaten the Division I champ was there, and I wanted to wrestle him and take him on. Since I didn't get the transfer to D1, I wanted to wrestle the guy, so I ended up beating him. So I bumped up, but 149 the whole time.
Oh, I see. Now, Waylon, I'm just curious, how much media have you done throughout your career? Because I looked on YouTube and I looked some other places, and I really couldn't find much on you. I found some articles here and there, and some fights, but really not a whole lot. How much media have you done over the course of your MMA career?
Not much. It's never been, when I was on the UFC, I was on the prelims, and then after the UFC, it's been smaller shows, and kind of this last year has been kind of sporadic. It's been or a year and a half, whatever, has been so much time between fights. So it's kind of like I didn't get any momentum, but it doesn't matter. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, Cameron Dollar, when you fought him at World Series of Fighting 2, that was a fight where there was a little bit of bad blood there, a little bit of a feud, I guess you could say, going on, because I guess something where on The Ultimate Fighter, he made it into the house and you didn't, but then you made it into the UFC and he didn't, so it was like some weird, I don't know, grudge he held against you or something where, I don't even know if it had anything to do with you, it was just like, kind of him being upset that he didn't even though you didn't make it on the show, he didn't make it in the UFC. But anyways, is that whole thing squashed? Is that done with? Is that over with? You won the fight?
I guess, people try to oversimplify these things like that. Oh, I made it to the house, you didn't, but yet you, but again, that's that's oversimplification. My fight to get into the house, I was killing the guy. They, it was, they all over the forums, everything. They said it was the biggest comeback ever. The guy was out at the end of pounded him at the end of the first round, and he told his corner, "I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out." They made him come out. And he hit a flying knee that hurt me, and then he ended up choking me. So, and the guys had to go to the hospital and spend the night. Instead of flying out, I had to stay another night. And they were like, well, if you don't get out of the hospital, they don't release him, you'll get in the house. I was like, okay. And he got in. So there's more to the story than just, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh, he playing favorites. It was more of maybe a fluke,
Right. Did you have any interaction with him at all? Like when you're hearing all this stuff that he was saying about you, were you completely blindsided? Right? Who is this guy? I don't really even know him. Did you have any interaction with him before you fought him?
No, I didn't. I think my sister or something had said, well, the guy's kind of running his mouth about you, but I don't get emotionally involved, like with, oh, you made it in the house and I didn't, or I don't feel like there's any type of injustice with me, I don't even think like that. I just want to fight, I don't get into all the stuff like, oh, he said this and he did this. Like, it's stupid.
Right. Now, you mentioned that World Series of Fighting, you signed with them, and then 7 months later, you got a fight. Was there anything with this Cameron Dollar fight that got the ball rolling with the World Series of Fighting? Like, let's say that you didn't have this feud or beef or whatever you want to call it. Do you think they would have put you on the shelf even longer, like 10 months, 11 months, something like that? Do you think that this little beef thing helped you get that fight or get a fight?
No, because I had 4 really, really bad knockouts since the UFC, like highlight reel knockouts. So I think since moving to 45, and I think they wanted to, see, it's like, okay, they both are going to throw their hands, and Dollar has a good chin. Let's see if he can, I guess that's what I would think is, they thought it'd be a good fight.
Mm-hmm. Did the fight go the way you had planned?
Yeah, that's exactly what I planned. I don't know. I didn't plan too much. I was working my wrestling, grappling. The knockout is what I wanted. But, so if it wasn't there, I would probably just box and continue to do what I did and get takedowns, But as soon as I saw an opening, I took it and it happened. But, he wasn't showing me any openings for a while. I was just boxing, so.
I see. Now, your last fight, I just want to touch on it briefly because obviously it's the last time we've seen you in action. The Georgi Karkanian fight, you lost the fight by first-round submission due to a guillotine choke. What went wrong in that fight?
I broke my ulna, the little bone in your arm from his kicks.
Right.
Kicked hard.
Right.
So I didn't block. I didn't block properly. I think, I could say whatever. I think his corner and him and his team had a good game plan and seen, that I need to polish up on my Muay Thai maybe, and they come out and he did, what he did, and it broke my arm. I freaked out and just shot, so.
Now, Georgi Karkanian is probably the best featherweight outside the UFC. I mean, obviously you can make the case for a couple other guys, Pat Curran and Daniel Strauss, Patricio Pitbull, some other guys you can make the case for who's the best outside the UFC. Just curious, did he live up to your expectations? A lot of people were talking about him being obviously the best guy outside the UFC.
Not really. If you saw the fight, it wasn't like I was winning the fight and everything. I think that, but that don't matter. He found a way to win. But no, I do not. I think that it's hard to say. I think if you say, if he didn't break my arm, or
right.
if I blocked correctly in that, then it wouldn't have happened, or this. But that's ifs, or I guess it's stupid even to think that. I don't know. I'd have to fight him the whole time. He did what he did. He beat me. So I can't really say. I didn't see. He wasn't giving me much problems.
Right. Now
stand up.
Right. Now, I've always been curious about this because you're one of the few guys who didn't fall below 500 and was released in the UFC. You don't really see that much these days of guys who are 2-2 or 2-1 or something like that get cut from the UFC. Usually they wait until you have a couple losses in a row or fall way below the 500 mark, like 2-5, 2-6. You're 2-2 in the UFC. I'm just curious, why did they let you go? I haven't heard really a reason why. So why did they let you go?
Well, during that time period, I just had a child. I wasn't ready for the UFC. I hadn't trained in a year before I got into the UFC. I was working full time. I was doing construction and up here and coaching wrestling at Penn as an assistant coach. And but the opportunity, somebody needed to fight Melvin, and nobody would, and I took the fight. But I just had a baby, 3 weeks maybe, I think, before that. So it was kind of, before that fight, it was, I had a lot going on. And so, and that was the time, that was it. The WEC had joined with the UFC.
Right.
And so there was, it was something that had to be done. It had to release a lot of people at 55 because of the combining. They had too many guys there at that weight.
Right. Yeah. I was always curious. I didn't know what the reason was. I kind of thought maybe the WC had a little bit to do with it, but I also thought that there's a plethora of reasons they can cut you for anything if you come off a loss. They don't have to honor the contract just because
of 4 or 5 killing Nick Lentz in that fight to the very end.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I won the first 2 rounds very, very, very easily, and was winning the third round, and got tired. But like I said, I was working full time. I just had a child,
right,
and I had a new bride, and it's a lot of things that just had moved just now to a new city, Philadelphia, and didn't have a gym. So there was a lot going on, but everything happens for a reason. I don't know, and I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Do you feel that you're your own worst enemy in fighting? Because it seems like the common theme throughout your career is, I was winning the fight, I was doing great, and then something happened and I lost. Do you think that the only guy who can beat you is you?
Yeah, I think that, but I think a lot of stuff, definitely, it's strange, it's like a hard luck kid. I think I moved around a lot. I hadn't had as much support and stability, and that, whatnot. I've never had any type of help or anything. I see a lot of these guys, their moms and dads pay for stuff, or they got, stuff like that, or I don't know, I know the guys at American Top Team and these places, they have a house, that wasn't, so I worked the whole time, and whatnot. But it's whatever, look at Matt Brown.
Yeah.
He did the same thing. When I very first met him, that's who got me kind of started and whatnot in MMA, and he worked in a factory, and was working at ready labor, to where you go in and do whatever for $50 a day, and look at him. So it's one of those things. It's not where you start; it's where you end.
Right.
I think I have more to give, but I definitely think that the instability and not as knowledgeable and having those, that has definitely been a problem for staying focused the whole fight.
Right. Now, Waylon, the only time I got to see you fight live was when you fought in Detroit, when you fought against Steve Berger for King of the Cage. What do you remember about that fight?
I was real confident in my hands. I just discovered Philly boxing, and was playing around with boxing. I only got to for that fight. I only got to box the whole time. I didn't do any MMA. I just had moved to Philly. I was coaching and working, but 3 days a week, I would go to the boxing gym. Johans, Bernard Hopkins, and all those. It's like the famous one, and work with a coach. So I got my confidence up in my hands, like, I can do this. It's kind of like a realization of capabilities, maybe, or what I can do. So.
Yep, and it was definitely a great performance by you, I must say. And like I mentioned, that was the first time I got this. Well, actually, the first and only time I got to see you fight live, because I'm from Michigan. I'm from a suburb of Detroit, so it was a very good performance by you. I'm just curious, who's your manager?
Monty Cox.
Yeah, I thought so. Because I'm seeing some Extreme Challenge. I'm seeing he was working for Pro Elite when you fought Floyd Hodgins, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was a problem too. I'd left Monty with whatever on my own. That's the reason why I didn't get to fight as much. I didn't know how the contracts went and guaranteed fights. I didn't know what to do. So me and him reconciled, and he got everything worked out for me.
Just curious if you feel like saying it. If you don't, I'm good with that. What happened there? Were you looking for a different manager? Do you think he wasn't doing a good job? What happened?
No, like I said, it was maybe just my instability and my fault on my end. Is 1 minute I'm in Tennessee, is like, hey, I got a girl pregnant. Well, my fiance, I shouldn't say girl, I'm sorry, but
right.
Hey, my fiance pregnant, and this and this. I'm in Tennessee. Oh, I'm in Philadelphia. I think it was just all that. Maybe it was me, and then, sometimes I don't know about fighting. I don't know business of fighting. I know nothing about management. And, it always seems like the grass is greener on the other side, and, guys say what they can do and different things and this. And, but probably I just made a mistake, You live and learn,
Definitely.
I'm a fighter. I'm not a business guy. Right. So I had to just learn a lesson, maybe.
Right. Definitely. Now, you're 33 years old, and I always have this theory that you really don't hit your peak in this sport until you hit that 32, 33, 34 range. I mean, a lot of people say, it's a young man's sport, blah, blah, it's better to be 26 than 30, but I really think that you won't learn all this stuff until you've experienced life and you've experienced fights and you've gone through all this stuff. With that being said, and with my theory being out on the table, do you think you're still at your peak? Do you still think you're in your prime?
Yeah, I never think I had a prime or a peak, just for the simple fact that I hadn't never trained much at all, and I haven't had many fights. I hadn't took as much punishment. So, a lot of times, like I said, I was working or I was starting a new family or different things. So I didn't train. I think it's a shelf life. I think that it kind of depends on when you start. If you start like Bernard Hopkins, he went to prison. He didn't have that good of an amateur career because he was running around the streets, so that kind of saved him a little bit. And then he went to prison, I think, for 8 years, and then he got out and took a couple years. So they say, he's older, but really in boxing age, he's not. He's got good defense too. There's another guy in Philly that's, I think, 44, named Amir Mansour, that just fought, and he's heavyweight and is looks like Mike Tyson, early. And I look at the boxing a lot. But like Randy Couture, he started late. Dan Henderson started late. And so a lot of it, I think it's a shelf life whenever you start and different things. I don't know, Mm-hmm. I just, what type of style you have and different things, motivation.
Mm-hmm. You fought only once as an amateur. You went 1-0, and then you turned pro right after that. Was that because you kind of got a little bit of a late start, and you were trying to, hey, let's get the ball rolling here. Let's get into pro. Let's start making something here. Or was it just something where your coaches just saw something in you and like, hey, I think you can bypass this amateur. Let's just go for it. Why did you only have one amateur fight?
I didn't know any better. Just people say, "Hey, do you want to fight a pro fight?" And I said yes. I didn't even think about any of that. I was working, and I was in Columbus. I'd never even hardly trained, So, and I took the fight. So it was just one of those things I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Take your time, learn. You got to learn all this. It's like, oh, you want to compete? And I said, yes. I just come out of college and I felt lost, I'd been competing and you had to travel with the guys. You have matches every, weekend and during the week and having fun, and that was gone. And I wanted to kind of have that back maybe, and that's the reason why I did it. I just, they asked me to, and I did. It was just a way to compete.
Mm-hmm. What was your major in college?
Business management and marketing.
I see. And before you got into fighting, what kind of jobs did you work? Did you have a set job? Did you work odd jobs? Were you just a wrestling coach? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I had worked for A6 Wrestling, working for a sales company. I was a volunteer assistant at Ohio State, and then I ended up working on a horse ranch in Ohio, actually, and meeting Rich or in Cincinnati, towards Cincinnati from Columbus. I just was like, man, this sales job, this is horrible. It was hell for me. I was like, man, I can't live my life. I can't do this the rest of my life. And so I'd grown up around horses. My aunt and uncle had a big farm with like 30, 40 horses, and I always worked on it and loved it, and went down there, and they offered me, like, oh, there's a place in the barn to stay, and, we got this. So I was in heaven, basically. I was like, okay, I want to do what I love doing. I don't want to do stuff for money. It would be like prison.
Oh, I see. Now, your real name is Michael. Waylon is your middle name. I'm just curious, why don't you go by Michael? Is that your dad's name and they just call you Waylon to avoid confusion, or is there another reason why you go by Waylon?
Nah, I don't know. A lot of people, I'm from over in, the mountains over there, and a lot of people use their middle name, or they have two names, like Michael Waylon, and then a guy when I was a kid, and then, but yeah, I guess, it's Michael Waylon, which is my father's name. They said they put the Waylon on it, and then obviously after a year or whatever, they just got shortened, so so that's it, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, I see. And you're born on October 31st, Halloween. Just curious, what were some of your birthdays like, being born on Halloween, growing up?
They were, I guess it was the same. We just did the Halloween or whatever, and then we had a birthday cake. Like, I guess everybody would come over and eat and everything, and then go trick-or-treating. So it was like a little, an extra festival there for the day. During the day we would celebrate, and then at night trick-or-treat. So there's a little extra.
Oh, I see. Now, Waylon, last question. Your nickname. I'm just curious, why don't you have one?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Nobody's named me, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
So I've heard different things and this, and I was like, oh, okay. I never put one down. I don't want to name myself,
Right.
The Pitbull or the Destroyer or whatever, like some name to try to, I'd feel like an idiot.
Right. And you got to find one that no one else has. Like, there's like 10 million guys who are the Beast. There's like 1,000 guys who are the Warrior, or there's all those.
Yeah, the Pitbull. Everybody's
everyone's the Pitbull. Everyone's the Pitbull. Yeah, absolutely. I
don't know. Well, see, I liked Waylo because a lot of my friends call me back home Waylo, or that was like, hey, Waylo, like Waylon Lowe. It's perfect because it goes together. But then there was Kinflow, so I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Right.
It's like him. I'd be copying. So I guess that'd be the only one I liked.
Right. I see. Waylon, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
No, just tune in is what I have to say to the fans, and hopefully I can put on a good fight and do something good,
Mm-hmm. Waylon, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it, and best of luck coming up on April 26th.
All right, thank you. Bye.